I am so excited to speak to our guest today. She's a physician assistant all the way out of Chicago, the founder and CEO of Sparkle Aesthetics. Please help me to introduce Injector Dani.
Hi, I'm Dani. Hi, I'm a PA, like you mentioned. I'm the owner of Sparkle Aesthetics, which is a Jetsons themed med spa outside of Oak Park. So yeah, it's a good time there.
Nice, nice. I'm so excited to get into the questions today because I know you have a lot going on in your career. I'm excited for the audience to learn more about you. So let's dive right in.
Hi, my name is Jonathan McLean, and I'm the founder and CEO of McLean Aesthetics.
Welcome to the dark side.
Let's go. So let's start off with your med spa because you just mentioned it's a Jetson theme. How did you come up with that idea, and how has that been working out for you?
It's been working out great. I really, as a child of the 70s, I grew up with, watching a lot of shows like I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, Jetsons, and some of these really fun, like 50s and 60s inspired shows. And I loved them. The women were beautiful. They were cute and they were fun, but they were also like classy. And there was a certain elegance about them. So I wanted my med spa to have sort of a very classy, elegant feel, but also fun, and not have anyone walk in and think, oh, gosh, I'm intimidated to be here. So I wanted to create a sense of nostalgia as well, because a lot of aesthetics, it's really based on the idea of nostalgia. We want to hold on to what we believe we used to look like. We want to hold on to what we're looking like now as time is passing. So there's like this kind of embedded sense of nostalgia in what we're doing as injectors. We're trying to help people hold on to a sense of what they want to feel like or used to feel like. So I wanted to kind of create this atmosphere of fun and lighthearted elegance with that kind of nod to the past.
Yeah, no, I can definitely understand that. And I like how you put that we're trying to stay young. Why do you think it's such an importance on like looking young or staying young instead of like aging naturally?
Well, I think that, I think we all are still going to age. We're going to age, of course, but it's a matter of aging gracefully, kind of not like letting it all go to hell, and just sort of like choosing a few things that we want to hold on to, nice smooth skin and hydrated skin, a hydrated lip and smooth forehead. These are all things that are like, we can still age and we can still age and look our age, but we can still look, a little bit more refined than we otherwise would.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So, and, and there's also that sense of like, I think people don't want to, first of all, I think that we have kind of like a little bit of a fear of death, fear of like looking old and stuff like that. But at the same time, I think we want to kind of embrace who we are and look our best. So I think there's somewhere I think is where aesthetics comes into play in that overlap.
Yeah. And I find that even interesting too, because, with that comment that you just made, it would make it seem like a lot of older people are going in to get aesthetics. But in this new age, it's a lot of people that are 18 through 25 getting aesthetics too. How do you feel about like younger people? Is it too young?
Well, in my personal practice, I don't have a lot of people 18, 20. That's just not my population. My population is really like moms in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s, just a much more mature population. And those are the people that I spend most of the time with. Now, I have had a couple of people come in and, much younger, and I want to try to respect their own aesthetic without forcing mine. But, I think that you have to be careful. You have to look out for kids that might be in a body dysmorphia or something that they just have unrealistic expectations or, really low self-esteem or something, at that age, you just have to be, I think, a little bit more on the lookout for that kind of thing and be sensitive to that. But also, understand that like there are 20 somethings that have like little lips and it really bothers them and makes them feel insecure. So, you want to support them and whatever it takes to make them feel their best too. So, I think I just tread a little bit more lightly when I do have somebody very young, and I really try to work with them to try to figure out what it is that they hope to accomplish. I do that with all patients of any age, but I just try to get to know them a little bit more when they're that young to try to figure out what's driving them.
Yeah. No, I can definitely understand. Now let's talk about the Chicago area. Let's talk about more, I guess, your clientele. What are people coming in and asking for the most? Like, what are the trends in that area right now?
There's a lot of like people who want to do, skin treatments. Like Morpheus is very popular in my practice, kind of those skin tightening, collagen introducing and collagen boosting procedures like radiofrequency microneedling, sculptra, and just kind of like a lot of HA filler. I do a lot of filler, a lot of under eye stuff, people who just feel like they come in saying, oh, I look so tired and I don't want to look so tired on Zoom. Those are usually what my people are looking for. Just kind of a natural look, but just looking refreshed and awake and like themselves.
So I hear a lot of people talk about the Zoom boom. That's real.
Oh, the Zoom boom. Yeah, totally. Everybody, they're just like, oh, I just hate the way I look on Zoom. And it's not even just Zoom. It's like our selfie population. And we are immediately aware of how we look at any time. It used to be that you could walk out of the house and look like crap and not even realize it until, the next day, if you ever realize it. It's like you do a quick look in the mirror and then leave. But now it's like people are taking pictures and you get to see them right away. And you're like, oh, I don't look good. And so I think there's so much more literally self-reflection in this culture, in this day and age. So I think that's where a lot of people are kind of like, oh man, they need to get something fixed right away.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now, you traditionally started off in the ER and then you transitioned your way into aesthetics. I would love for you to touch on the point of coming from an ER perspective for other nurses that are transitioning out of the ER. What are some things that they should expect before getting into the aesthetic industry?
Well, I mean, so I'm an ER and trauma PA. I still do work in the ER. I've been at the same hospital for 15 years and I still go and do a shift every week. So it is a big part of my life still. And that's by choice, to stay with it. But so I think in terms of providers that are trying to get into aesthetics from the ER, I think that ER has a really good basis for aesthetics. I think it prepares you for the idea that aesthetics, it isn't just like fun and fancy free. You have to still be careful. You have to be alert for complications, and you have to understand that there are some severe complications that can arise out of the aesthetic treatments. So I think the ER uniquely prepares you for understanding that like everything has risk. I mean, because we in the ER, we see risk associated with walking out of the grocery store and getting hit by a car. And, we see risk everywhere as ER people. So I think the first thing I would say is that you have an advantage. I think it makes you a particularly hard worker and particularly aware of like the importance of being responsible as an injector when you come from the ER. I do think it's also kind of critical to understand, like, what are you going for? Are you going to just try to dabble? Is it going to be a side hustle, as they say? Or are you going to kind of throw yourself all in? And in some ways, I think you have to throw yourself all in to be successful and not just have it as like something you do one day a week, because it takes a lot of practice. There's a steep learning curve with aesthetics. You need to take as many trainings as you can. You need to be able to shadow and practice, and all of that stuff takes dedicated effort. So I think if you're expecting to be able to become like a great injector, just doing it 1 or 2 days a month or 1 day a week or whatever, sometimes I hear, I just think like, I think sometimes you have to really take the leap to get good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. A lot of people come to me as a recruiter and ask, hey, can I do this 1 day a week? Can I do this? And I feel like if the repetition is not there, it's not going to work. It's definitely not going to work.
Exactly. I mean, you're not going to build up your clientele. You're not going to be able to build up that skill. So I think that it's a much longer and harder road if you're only dabbling in it. So, I mean, a lot of people ask me that too. They say like, how do I get a job like doing this stuff if I'm only going to do it 1 day a week? And I'm like, that's really hard. I don't know anybody who would hire you 1 day a week without experience. I think a lot of places, like myself, as an owner of a business, I do entertain the idea of hiring a brand new injector, but it comes out of thinking that this person is going to really work hard, throw herself or himself into it, and that's kind of like the gamble you take is when you're taking on a new injector. Is you're taking on their personality. You're making a bet on their personality because they don't have skill yet. So you're kind of saying, is this person going to work hard? Are they going to be able to, are they teachable? Will they take criticism and redirection and all the stuff it takes to become good? And will they be, do they have a network of people that they can start bringing in? And all of that stuff is, I think, taken into consideration for a new injector as a business owner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure. So they also like have to build kind of their own community prior to getting a job.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and in some sense, like that's where an ER nurse or an ERPA or NP does really well, because any person in the ER knows a million people. You have a huge group of people working in the ER, night shift, day shift. You have an immediate network. So I think somebody like that, if they have the right personality to be like, hey, I work at this med spa now, come see me, they can really bring in a lot of people. And then those people can kind of line themselves up, for success. So yeah, you have to kind of lean on your own network, I think, when you're starting. Sorority sisters, sometimes I've interviewed some people and they're like, I have an entire sorority that like we're in Chicago, and when they can't wait to find out where I'm going to work, and things like that.
Yeah, no, I could definitely understand that 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having your own practice, one of the cool things that I saw about you when I was doing my own research is that you're one of the few nurses that use the ultrasound technique. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. So as an ERPA, I started out doing ultrasound procedures about 12 years ago. So it was really important to me in the ER to learn ER procedures the safest way possible. And ultrasound really leveled up my safety in the ER. So I was able to get very skilled at a lot of different procedures using ultrasound in the ER, so that when I started injecting about 6 years ago, I was always really nervous about a lot of the risks associated with filler, especially because you could cause permanent blindness if you inject into the artery of any artery of the face. You can cause permanent blindness. So that really bothered me as somebody who was very risk averse. So I just kind of thought, well, the only way I'm going to be able to know for sure what my needle or cannula is interacting with in the face is if I use ultrasound, because I took a bunch of cadaver courses and trained with all kinds of people, and nobody could tell me for sure what a safe injection site was. So I actually started ultrasounding. I was one of the first people in North America to do ultrasound for aesthetics. So Dr. Weiner and Dr. Stella in Seattle and I were really kind of at the forefront of doing this stuff. And so now I've been teaching those techniques. This is my third year of teaching some of these techniques that I've come up with. I've kind of created a lot of my own techniques for injecting and mapping the face.
How long did it take you to kind of create that technique? I mean, being you had no one to kind of follow, like how did you come up with that?
I come from like a MacGyver father. You know, my dad is a physician who sort of has always found his own way and come up with all kinds of contraptions in medicine and at home. And I've always practiced under the assumption that like you can figure out a way to do anything if you put your mind to it. So I just really, put my mind to it. Like I want to make it safer. I know how to use ultrasound. I was at that point when I started doing it, I was very skilled in ultrasound. I was already even teaching it at the medical school, teaching colleagues, doing workshops. Before I even became an injector, I was competent and confident with ultrasound. So that wasn't, just trying to find adaptations for the face was really the challenge. It wasn't learning ultrasound. That was already in my back pocket. So it's still a work in progress. I still always push myself to try to come up with new applications, new ways to make something better or safer or more fun even with ultrasound. So yeah, it's been a great time. It took really just a couple of months to try to gather some thoughts for putting it together. And then since then, it's just been constantly building on it.
Nice. Now, when you speak about facial mapping, can you describe that a little bit more?
Yeah, so I actually trademarked the term safe mapping, and I trademarked the process of safe mapping as well. It's really, I don't really like the term vascular mapping because that implies that you have to create like a treasure map of every vessel in the face, and that's really nearly impossible. And that's what we have CT angiography for, frankly. And we're not really trying to do that with ultrasound. We're really forcing ourselves to come up with a safe spot to put filler. And that's where ultrasound comes in. So safe mapping is the practice of finding a very specific spot that's going to look good to put filler. And it's a matter of like screening it. It's basically just like screening a spot for safety.
Nice. Now, you do training. How can someone get into your training class if they're interested?
Yeah, I have several trainings, usually one a month for ultrasound for aesthetics. It is an accredited, approved for 6 hours of in-person hours. So that is all on my website at www.sparkleaesthetics.com. And it's under the training for providers link. So yeah, that's how somebody can sign up. It's all just on the website, and we have a great training center, and usually the courses sell out. It's a really fun time. And I encourage anybody who's interested in aesthetics or beginning in aesthetics or even a pro in aesthetics to come and learn how to use ultrasound, because it really changes the safety level of your practice.
Nice. Now, having your own practice, what are some of the struggles that you endured, especially when starting off in the beginning?
That's a great question. And I think that it really comes down to, as my only background, I mean, I was a comedian before I went into medicine. So I did comedy for about 15 years and then in the ER for about 15 years. And I never had the experience of being a manager. That's not a natural skill for me. That's not something that I manage, it's not even the right word to say, but I work with medical students or PA students in the ER, do a lot of education. I work with the nurses, but that's not the same as managing staff, managing employees, and all of that stuff has been a struggle for me to just kind of understand. There's like a business speak, and that's not something we do in the ER. In the ER, when something's going wrong, you're like, Craig, hand me that epinephrine, now, shock, stuff like that. There's not this kind of like, okay, great, I'm going to need you to, hand in this form, by end of day. I've never known how to talk like that. I've always been, in comedy or the ER. So that's definitely still a skill I'm trying to work on. And I think a lot of us in medicine say that that's a big struggle when people who are in medicine, that's one of the things that you hear is like, gosh, we don't take business classes in medical school. We don't take management classes in medical school. So that's been the biggest kind of learning curve for me.
Nice. Yeah, I can definitely understand that for sure. Now, I don't want to skip past this comedy thing. Let's go back to that. So tell us a little bit about how did you get into comedy? Kind of how did you transition as like, I want to be a PA? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
It's not as crazy of a like dichotomy as it sounds. I mean, I guess it is, but I went to school in WashU, which is got a great medical school. I kind of chose it because I thought, wow, I'd really like to go to a school with a good medical school. And so the idea was that I was going to go to medical school and be a doctor like my father. And I got to WashU, and then very first day, literally an orientation day at school, there was a comedy group, an improv comedy group performing. I'd never seen improv comedy, but I did like thespian. I was like an actor in high school, but I'd never seen improv comedy. And so I saw improv comedy on my first day at WashU, and my jaw dropped, and I thought, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I got to do improv comedy. They're just taking suggestions from the audience. They don't know what they're doing. People are laughing. It's hilarious. And it just caught my attention, and I was like, I got to do this. So I tried out for that group, got into that group. It's a really fun improv group called Mama's Pot Roast. And I pretty much dropped the pre-med thing maybe after my freshman year. I think I was like, this is like what I want to do. And my parents were like, what are we doing here? I was like, yeah, I'm going to graduate from WashU. Thanks for the tuition, but I'm going to be a comedian. And so I did that. I got a French degree instead. I still had a lot of pre-med stuff, pre-med exposure there, but I moved after college, moved to Chicago with $200 in a moving van, and went and crashed on somebody's couch and became a waitress to support myself. And, I did that. I did that whole like comedy life. I learned how to like do whatever jobs I could to make money to support myself as a comedian. I should probably write a book about all the strange jobs I got myself into. And just supported my comedy habit until I got this really coveted job in Amsterdam called Boom Chicago. So that was like a real big job. And at that time I was sort of like, I might want to go back to medical school. Might want to switch back into medicine because I was kind of missing the stability. So I actually took the MCAT, did a post-bac program to go back to medical school. But then this job in Amsterdam came up and I couldn't refuse. So then I got pulled back into comedy and did that for a couple years and performed with like Jordan Peele and, Seth Meyers and Jason Sudeikis, Brendan Hunt, all those guys were all Boom Chicago people. So those were like, my friends. And so it was like a crazy little excursion. But at that point, my MCAT had expired and I was over there for too long. And when I came back, I thought that was I'm not going to be able to beat that. That was like the time of my life where I was just paid to be a professional comedian in Amsterdam. And so I thought I better pull the ripcord here because I'm not going to be able to beat that in comedy. And then I thought, well, I'm going to apply to PA school. I've got everything lined up. And I didn't want to take the MCAT. So that's what I did. Just applied to PA school, got into PA school, and then that was it. And now I still do comedy, but it's like, I'll go and do a show once a month or something.
Wow, that's super cool. It's like you live two lives. You got to live that life, and then you got to live this life also. It's super cool. I know.
It's great. I feel very blessed. My husband always says I'm a collector, and I never let go of something that I have like loved, and I just keep trying to fit it all into my life.
Do you feel like it gives you like work-life balance too? Like when you're getting too like, I guess, burnt out by being an aesthetic provider, you can kind of give back to your comedy thing or something else?
Yeah, I mean, I guess in some ways it's like it it just keeps me grounded. I feel like that's the thing, is that I feel like it's important for me to stay grounded with the things that I love and the things that matter to me. They kind of remind me of where I came from, and like, I don't want to give up the ER because it's, been a huge part of who I am and the skills I've built. So I don't want to stop going there. And same with comedy, it's just, they just feel like too much a part of me to let go of.
Yeah, for sure. I gotta see this. I gotta come to Chicago and see this, seriously. See you.
Best use of your time and money.
You don't think it's you just you're not that into it anymore.
Well, I mean, it's improv. You can't guarantee the quality of the show.
Yeah, I get you. I understand.
I mean, it's always a fun time, but it's, I'd hate for you to make a special trip for that.
For sure. Now, I wanted to talk to you about conferences in the industry. Is there any conferences that you can suggest to the audience to attend?
Yeah, I mean, there are some great conferences. I'm going to be presenting at Aesthetic Next on ultrasound. That's a really fun, vibrant, good time where you can meet a lot of people, a lot of networking, good parties, a lot of workshops. So I really like that one. And I'm also going to be presenting at Modern Beauty, which is a really great conference in Boston in May. So those are the two upcoming that I'll be at. And then Dr. Subio is a plastic surgeon. He has a really good conference called Needle Art, which I went to last year, and it was great. This will be his second one in Philadelphia. And yeah, there's all kinds of different ones, like the CMAC conference. I think that's going to be in London, like complications management. That's going to be a really kind of different experience, a lot of learning to be had at a place like that. There are some all around the world that are really good, but those are the ones that kind of stick out to me.
Nice. And I'm gonna list those all below so the audience can definitely check those out, because I like some of them too. I want to attend a lot. I want to attend Aesthetic Next. I hear the same thing. And Dr. Subi, I just heard about his, so I'm excited to learn about that also. For sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who are some key opinion leaders in the industry that you can point out for the audience to maybe look up and learn more about?
So KOLs. So I recommend K Owl. It's a very popular owl. He speaks on a lot of nocturnal activities. No, I'm just kidding. The term KOL sort of always gives me pause, because so that's why I created the character K Owl, to kind of poke fun at the idea of a KOL. I mean, there are so many talented people in the industry. It's hard for me to pick just a few, but I really like Dr. Subio. Like I mentioned, he kind of speaks truth to power, which I think is good for us to kind of not just take this kind of fact that oftentimes is opinion, which is why I don't really like the term key opinion leader, because a lot of times I think it should be, key fact leader. And more evidence-based medicine, I think, is really what our industry could use more of. So I like Dr. Subio because he'll bring, evidence and good critical thinking to some of the stuff that we take as fact in this business. There's somebody like that is really, I think, important for our industry. And Rana Kennelly also is a good friend of mine, and she's great with the same kind of idea that, we have to kind of be critical thinkers more than just kind of swayed by popular opinion. And those people like that are really the people that I recommend that we follow and kind of think about. And Amy Martin is also incredibly smart, and she has a lot of good ideas, and she's great. I think April Harrison, she's a derm PA in Texas. She's a great injector. So is Anusha in California, is a really great injector. Stella in Seattle is an ultrasound doctor. Like I mentioned, Stella and Dr. Weiner, they're both really great with like bringing good thinking and ultrasound data. Leonie Schalke in Amsterdam is an awesome ultrasound. She's sort of really brought so much to the world of aesthetic medicine with her ultrasound work and her studies. So there's just too many people to name, but those are some of the people that I kind of like follow and watch what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. And they're all great too. And yeah, I know most of them that you just mentioned, and you guys should definitely go look those people up to gain more knowledge about the industry.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you so much, Dani, for sitting down with me, speaking more about the aesthetic industry. Tell everybody where they can find you and what you got planned next.
You can just check out my Instagram. It's Dani_Sparkle_PA. And my website, like I mentioned, if you want to check out some classes with me, is www.sparkleaesthetics.com. And yeah, come DM me with any questions you might have. I try to do a good job of answering them.
You heard her. DM her if you have any questions.
Yeah.
And until next time, bye.
Okay, bye.